All right, humans, listen up. Detective Rex reporting for duty. And yes, before you ask, I did graduate top of my K-9 class. Not bragging, just barking facts. Today we're diving into a question I know has been scratching at your brain like a flea you can't reach. What actually happens if you break the law in America? You've seen it on TV. Sirens blaring, someone gets cuffed, cue dramatic music. But trust me, reality is way messier and way funnier. Unless you're the guy in handcuffs, then not so funny. Now let's start small. Imagine you're in a supermarket. You see a candy bar. Your stomach growls. You think, one little bite won't hurt, right? Wrong. In America, even stealing something worth $1 can land you a criminal charge. It's called petty theft. And here's the kicker. That petty theft can leave you with a criminal record that follows you longer than a bad haircut. So next time you're tempted, just remember, it's cheaper to buy the candy than to pay the lawyer. And trust me, lawyers don't work for peanuts. I tried. They refused. But maybe you're thinking bigger. Maybe candy bars don't excite you. Maybe you're the type who says, why not rob a bank? Oh, buddy, let me tell you, bank robbery is a whole different breed of disaster. Under federal law, that's up to 20 years in prison. 20 years. Do you know how long that is in dog years? 140? I'd be an old mutt by then. And good luck explaining to your cellmate why you thought wearing a SpongeBob mask was a good disguise. Let's sniff around traffic laws for a second, because everyone thinks they're a great driver until they're not. Speeding in America isn't just, oops, my bad. In some states, going more than 20 miles per hour over the limit can turn into reckless driving. That's not just a ticket, my friends. That's a misdemeanor. That means court dates, fines, and possibly even jail. All because you wanted to feel like Vin Diesel for 5 minutes. Spoiler alert, you're not Vin Diesel. You're just the guy explaining to a judge why you thought your 2002 Honda Civic could hit 120 miles per hour. And don't even get me started on DUIs, driving under the influence. That's when people think it's smart to mix tequila shots with car keys. Here's the reality. First offense, you're looking at fines up to $1,000. License suspension, maybe even jail. Plus your insurance will skyrocket higher than a squirrel chased up a tree. And the worst part, everyone in your neighborhood knows. Nothing says, I made a mistake, like your mugshot floating around the internet. Here's another fun one, jaywalking. You know, crossing the street wherever you feel like it. In some countries, nobody cares. In America, oh buddy, you can get ticketed. It's usually small, like $25, but hey, that's still lunch money. And trust me, no sandwich tastes good when it's seasoned with a regret. Now let's talk about what happens after you get caught. Because trust me, getting caught is way easier than you think. Cops in America have cameras, radios, helicopters, and of course, highly trained dogs like me. We smell fear and bacon, but mostly fear. Once you're caught, you're arrested. Read your Miranda rights. You know, you have the right to remain silent. My advice? Use that right. Most people talk themselves into deeper trouble than they started with. Humans love to explain, but sometimes silence really is golden. After that, you go into the legal system, court hearings, arraignment, maybe even trial. And here's where it gets spicy. Prosecutors don't care if you're a good guy who just made a mistake. Their job is to prove you guilty. The judge? They're not your mom. They're not going to say, it's okay, sweetie, don't do it again. Nope. They've got sentencing guidelines. And if you're unlucky, they've also had a bad morning coffee. So yeah, breaking the law in America isn't just about that one moment. It's about a chain reaction of chaos that can haunt you for years, all because you thought rules were optional. Spoiler, they're not. And you know what? That's just the beginning. We haven't even gotten to the really weird laws yet, like, did you know in some states it's illegal to walk around with an ice cream cone in your back pocket? Yep, that's a real thing. And if you're wondering how anyone came up with that, stick around, because in part 2 I'm unleashing the strangest, funniest, and most ridiculous laws America has ever cooked up. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Welcome back, humans. Detective Rex here again, your favorite four-legged lawyer, judge, and comedian all rolled into one. In part 1, we sniffed out what happens when you break the serious laws in America. Things like theft, DUIs, and speeding. But now, oh boy, now we're digging into the weird side of the law. And trust me, America's got some real head-scratchers. Some of these laws are so bizarre, you'd think lawmakers were playing a game of truth or dare when they wrote them. Let's start with Alabama. In the fine state of Alabama, it's illegal to wear a fake mustache in church if it makes people laugh. That's right. If your mustache joke hits too hard, you're technically breaking the law. So word of advice. If you're going to church in Alabama, leave the Groucho Marx disguise at home, or at least learn to bomb your jokes. Moving over to Arizona, they've got a law that says it's illegal for a donkey to sleep in a bathtub. Yeah, I'll give you a second to pick that. Somewhere, at some point, a donkey must have caused chaos in a bathtub. And instead of just banning the donkey, banned the whole concept. Meanwhile, humans can still sleep in a bathtub all they want. Donkeys, 0. Humans, 1. Now let's sniff around California. In the city of Los Angeles, it used to be illegal to lick a toad. Yep, because people were actually doing it to get high. Listen, folks, if your life plan includes lick a frog to feel better, maybe it's time to reevaluate. Personally, I prefer chewing on tennis balls. Much safer. And don't think these laws are just old, dusty rules nobody enforces. Sometimes people actually get busted for them. For example, in Florida, there's a law that says you can't tie an alligator to a fire hydrant. Seems obvious, right? Apparently not. Some Floridians out there were like, yep, Sparky the gator will be fine right here while I go grab a sandwich. Newsflash, the gator disagreed. But here's the serious point behind these silly laws. America's legal system is massive. There are federal laws, state laws, and even city laws. You could technically be breaking a law without even knowing it. For example, did you know in New York City, it's illegal to honk your car horn except in an emergency? And yet, if you've ever driven in New York, you know everybody is honking like it's a competition. If the law were enforced, half the city would be in jail during rush hour. Let's wag our tails back to what happens after you break the law. See, not every lawbreaker ends up in prison. America loves its fines. Forget the candy bar theft. How about a parking ticket? Leave your car in the wrong spot and boom, $50. In a big city, $100. Block a fire hydrant. Now you're talking $250. That's enough to buy a whole new dog bed. A fancy one, too. But sometimes fines aren't enough. Repeat offenders can end up with community service. That's when a judge says, all right, instead of sitting in a cell, you're going to pick up trash, clean parks, or scrub graffiti. Honestly, as a dog, I think that's brilliant. More humans out cleaning means more opportunities for me to find dropped snacks. Everybody wins. And here's where things get really American. Plea bargains. About 90% of criminal cases in the U.S. never even make it to trial. Instead, the prosecutor and defense lawyer cut a deal. It's like buying a used car, lots of back and forth, but in the end, someone walks away feeling ripped off. Usually the defendant. So if you're thinking of breaking the law, just know, The courtroom drama you see on TV? That's the rare case. Most of the time it's just paperwork, deals, and someone saying guilty so they can go home sooner. All right, let me tie this leash together. Breaking the law in America is like tossing a stick into a hornet's nest. You might think it's small at first, but the chaos that follows is bigger than you can imagine. From fines to jail, from weird donkey laws to serious DUIs. One thing's clear. The law doesn't mess around, and neither do I. So here's my professional advice, straight from the snout of Detective Rex. Don't do dumb stuff. And if you do mess up, for the love of bacon, hire a lawyer before you open your mouth. Remember, you have the right to remain silent, but you also have the right to remain smart. And with that, I'll leave you with a teaser for the next case we're digging into. What happens inside an American jail, beyond the bars, the myths, and the reality. Let's just say, it's not exactly like the movies, but hey, that's a story for another walk. Stay out of trouble, keep your paws clean, and remember, I may be a dog, but I know the law. Detective Rex signing off. Woof.